How's everyone doing tonight? Jess? Jess, Gab, this is insane. This is unbelievable. How you doing? Alright, so my relationship with Jess goes all the way back to Beechwood. From elementary school all the way through high school, Jesse Tyler Golenberg was always a guy with a plan. From day one in high school, the plan was already in place. There was no doubt in any of our minds that Jess was going to IU. The signs were obvious. Jess would visit Emily what felt like 10 times a year. He'd spend his summers in the great state of Indiana at Camp Gucci. And each fall, he'd ship in a different Gucci girl for Beechwood homecoming. The signs were there. All this leading to Jesse only applying to one school, IU. And now, it was up to him to take these 4 years in high school to convince every guy he knows to go to IU with him. As it was crunch time for the rest of us, as we were all making our college decisions, IU was not even on my radar. I was set on going to Wisconsin, which seemed like a done deal in my mind. That was, until Jesse got word of that. He looked at me one day in math class and with a snarky tone said, "Jeremy, you have no chance of getting into Wisconsin. I'm calling Emily. You're going down to visit her in Bloomington this weekend, and we'll talk when you get back." An IU weekend in March, Duke playing Indiana in the Sweet 16. Emily's always a blast. Why not? I got lost. Where am I? And thanks to Emily getting a bunch of 17-year-old high school kids into just about every bar in Kirkwood, thanks to Indiana beating Duke in the Sweet 16, and thanks to me getting tear gas for my first time on Kirkwood after celebrating, I went home, went directly to Jesse and said, "Jesse, sold." It was at IU that Jess was the leader. He got his entire crew of Beechwood boys to go to IU. He got us all to join the same house, set up our entire social scene freshman year, and pretty much any party we go to was a Gucci kid. The master plan had worked for Jess, and he was leading the ship. After 4 great years, college was over. Jess had moved to San Francisco. And all of a sudden, there was a new lady in his life. This mythical girl named Gabby. After months of hearing about Jesse's new fling in San Francisco, I finally decided it was time for me to meet her. I had to see what the buzz was all about. On a September weekend in 2008, Garson and I decided to fly out to LA for the weekend to visit Greg. And we convinced Jess to drive down from San Francisco for the weekend so we could all finally meet Gabby. And for Gabby, well, this was a first impression she'll probably never forget. It was a Friday night. All the Beechwood boys had congregated at a bar in Santa Monica, and Jess was en route with Gab for the introduction. Jess and Gab finally arrived, and Gabby had walked into a tornado. Within seconds of her arrival, before any introductions were made, the alcohol took over. Without knowing any of our names or who we were, Gabby had found herself immersed in the middle of a circle of me, Garson, Greg, Jesse, doing some sort of river dance around her. Garson took his shirt off. Gabby got up on one of our shoulders. We were taking pillow cushions, swinging them at her. I put her down, picked her up, gave her the old Cancun after, and you know what? How am I getting lost? Wait, sorry. And all of this without a hello, without a nice to meet you, Gabby, without really anything. Not knowing why we did that or what had gotten into us, we were all pretty convinced that we just blew it for Jesse. However, to our surprise, our impromptu initiation had the opposite effect on Gabby. She was ear-to-ear smiles and looked like she just had the time of her life. And it was at this point I was absolutely sold on this girl for Jess. How do I keep getting lost there? Whether or not it was that crazy weekend with Gabby out in LA, or whether or not Jess was just craving to get back to the Midwest, years of selling Jess seemed to have finally worked. There I was sitting in my apartment one night when the phone rang. It was Jess. I picked up expecting just to catch up, but instead, said he had good news for me. And then he dropped a bomb on me. He was moving to Chicago. After crashing on my couch for the past 4 years, Jess would finally have his own place. We then started to talk details of his imminent move, yet there was one major detail left out. Where was he going to live? He was moving in a month. Neighborhoods were never discussed. Then minutes later, my excitement faded off a bit when the "I'm moving to Chicago" was followed by "I'm sleeping on your couch for a month or two until I find a place." Buzzkill. When selling Jess for years on the idea of moving to Chicago, the offer to sleep on my couch for a month or 2 or 3 was never on the table. Having a third roommate was not exactly what I had envisioned when pitching Jess on Chicago. And after what it felt like 6 or 7 months later on our couch, Jesse finally found a place, and the two of us and Gabby lived happily ever after in Chicago. So in conclusion, after going through nearly every stage of my life with Jess, there's honestly no more loyal guy out there in the world. Loyal, yes, but definitely not without his quirks. His obsession with his fish tank, we all get it, Jesse. Along with the fact that just about any time that Jesse bends over to pick something up, it is near impossible to avoid the sight of his crack. You all have seen this before. Yet, despite all these quirks, we all love Jess. It has truly been a blast going from Beechwood to Bloomington to Chicago with Jess. And at this stage in Chicago, I've honestly never seen him happier in his life than he has been with Gab. Guys, this is insane out here. This is a testament to both you guys and how you were able to get everybody to come out here for this weekend. And it has been an absolute blast. Tonight, this start is crazy. I'm very pumped for the rest of the night. I love you both. I'm very happy for both you. And Jess, lastly, please, for the sake of everyone tonight, do not bend over to pick anything up in front of everyone tonight. Mazel tov, guys. You guys are awesome. I love you. Let's have fun tonight, guys. One more time.